Welcome, Anjali, Kinnari, and Ganpati. I'm so glad that we have such a lovely, exciting panel. I think the topic is very, very pertinent as influencer marketing gets more and more mainstream, as the probably the fastest growing part of the digital marketing ecosystem today. All of you, and Anjali, we've worked together, so we know how much you use them across the board at different aspects. We've seen today influencers being used across the board, right? Whether it's, of course, an online campaign where a product is launching or even a store is opening, the events that we are doing today offline, you see a lot of all pervasiveness of the influencer ecosystem. For your brand, let's start today with understanding and getting an appreciation how each of you are using influencers today as part of your marketing thinking.
Thank you for having me here, Atin. Let me start off by saying that we are still new to the journey in a lot of sense. And let me put a little perspective to where we were and where we are at now. So the word use influencers is pretty much the way we used to work previously with influencers, which is you take an influencer, give them a brand message, and then tell them to kind of, put it out to your audience. But increasingly, we've realized that this ecosystem is large, it's growing, and it's a very important part of your media mix. And so we've moved away from this whole bit of trying to use influencers to collaborating, co-creating with influencers, because we understand the power of this medium. So I would say that there are many different ways in which brands use influencers. The way that we would like to use them or collaborate with them is not just talk about, brand building or advocacy, but also take it a step further on how do you direct consumers to using the influencers to get more knowledge about your brands and products, specific features you want to talk about, everything that you can't put out in a 30-second, 20-second message on media is something that an influencer can help bring to the table. Definitely looking at influencers to drive sales, looking at influencers to build reputation for your brands, talk about some of the more salient aspects of your brands. So that's the space that we are now kind of operating in. And we have lots of campaigns through the year where we look at influencers to not just add back value to the message that we are doing, but to also kind of engage more with consumers and bring to light things that we probably can't just say in a campaign communication.
Thank you. Kinnari, you have probably a unique perspective to this. The OTT world is a new age world. We've seen that as far as the digital ecosystem goes, some of the most forefront in using the influencers has been the OTT players. So please share your perspective on how differently you've been using the influencer ecosystem.
Hi. So for us as a media company, or this is relevant for anybody in this industry, because we are in the business of making content, our first line of influencers are the people who've been casted in that particular piece of content. So influencer as a proposition existed for us even before social media came in, right? We had an Amitabh Bachchan talk about his or her content in newspapers, on forums, etc. Now what we are seeing is this same wave of influencers have started moving towards digital, right? In digital as well, the early influencers were the star cast of the movie. And what's generally happened is, I think it's more to do with consumers, where his attention span and his belief in storytelling has moved a little towards, those macro and micro influencers, where they think that probably it is vetted again. So for example, if we are releasing a television show or we are releasing a piece of content, yes, the actor and the actresses influencers by themselves will talk about their piece of content, but there is some extra validation that is needed, right? There's a larger chatter around around the piece of content that we want to create. Having said that, yes, OTTs have been digital first. We've used, I wouldn't say used, I think the right word is we worked together with a lot of influencers to make sure that the message that we want to drive beyond a 15 to 30 second commercial is driven out there, right? So I think the journey is about going and talking to where the consumer is.
So that's very interesting, and I think the word that is standing out from both of you is we don't use them, we collaborate with them, and that's really nice to hear. Because today, and the other aspect that, Kinnari, I see you talk about is not just using those that are acting in the show,
Right.
but moving broader probably to get the more authentic message, more relatable message out there, not just those that are vested in that project, but those who may want to watch it.
Right.
So it's very, very interesting to hear. Ganpati, would love to sort of hear your views on our topic today as well, and then we'll dive in deep on the data and technology and what she touched upon, the efficiency piece of our conversation.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Happy to be here. I'm sure the people who have been taken down by the lunch, but I'll try and make myself more audible and relevant. Interesting. Why I mentioned lunch is because I sell rice as a business. Okay, and it's strange, and a lot of people would walk up to me. What are we talking about? Everybody's eating rice practically. More than 60% of India would have had it for lunch today. So what's there to influence about it? Isn't it? The fundamental difference is it's not about selling a commodity, it's about selling a brand. And what, today we call it influencers, and we collaborate with them. The idea here is we always had people whom we were looking up to who made very good food. The idea was not to stick with the product, but to make a difference to what I do to your life. And today influencers help us extend that to your lives without actually making a unidirectional piece of content which I can put across to you. I don't need to shout out and say I'm the longest grain, I'm the whitest grain, I'm the most aromatic grain. I don't need to do that. We've ceased to do that. We've ceased from telling people to do that. But we've moved into getting you to experience recipes, getting you to experience food in a far more engaging and enjoyable way. Because we are not a product which get discussed on the table. We've had, but we don't get discussed. So how do you get excitement? We've worked with influencers, we've collaborated with them to build that excitement on a product like Dawat in a category like rice. And that's what we believe that today's day and age with influencers there, we've managed to do it far better. And I think without them, it would have been a very challenging world to kind of create that. That's my take on this.
And that's very unique. It shows that not only are the influencers a gateway for us to disseminate information, but another way to deeply engage with the consumer in a super exciting and creative way, probably an access that we did not have in the past, especially with maybe just television advertising where it was cookie cutter, repeated frequency. Today the creativity is a lot more. That's really good perspective, Ganpati. Thank you for that. I think the one thing that we all recognize is that influencers are here to stay. They are definitely giving us this access as part of our marketing mix, which goes beyond the toolkit that we had in the past. So as we scale the use of influencers, and coming to today's meat of the topic, data and tech. And we'll talk about data and tech first. I think AI we'll park aside because that's now a $5 million question, as we know from the recent news. But tell us, Anjali, Mondelez has always been at the forefront of not just making these marketing investments, but having a lot of thought behind them, a lot of thinking behind them, a lot of analysis behind them. Everything is purposeful, but at the same time, it is appropriately rationalized. So please tell us what role has data and technology played as you have started scaling the use of influencers?
So then I would say there are various different ways in which you can use data, and I won't speak about all of them. I'll just talk about the most relevant ones. I think data definitely helps in bringing authenticity. So first of all, not just of the influencers, but also the audience that they connect with. So using data and tools, there are enough tools in the market today that help you realize which is the right influencer to go to, and if that influencer is relevant to your messaging, to your brand, to the persona you want to create, to the message you want to put out there. So there's a lot of data and tech use over there. Identification of the right influencers, making sure they're authentic, on brand for you, and also making sure that their audience is authentic. The other space that I see the use of data in is definitely driving ROI. So making sure that you're optimizing. There's a couple of things you can optimize, either your budget on when you're investing or the optimization of performance. So largely around understanding whether the influencer is driving your KPIs that you put out at the beginning of your campaign, if they're meeting those goals and objectives for you. There's an important role for data to play over there and tech to play. And I think the third bit, which is now becoming increasingly important, you said we'll park AI for later, is the content itself, right? So there are enough tools today that help you make sure that the content that is being served is served to the right audience in the moment in time, and also making sure that your creative that is being put out there for the consumer is the right messaging. So tools that can enable you to create crisper, tighter, more relevant content for consumers using AI tools and technology. So that's really the space that I see. I mean, there is of course lots of other things that you can use data for.
So the three things, just to summarize for our audience today, is that curation seems to be the starting point. Efficiency, so measurement.
Efficiency and effectiveness.
Effectiveness. And the third piece being the messaging and the qualitative aspect of the content itself. No, that's very, very helpful. And I think curation is an interesting one for Kinnari, for us to deep dive with you, since you already have a set pool of influencers, as part of your projects, the shows that you're doing, but you end up going beyond them. How do you go about using, qualitative or quantitative factors with a focus on quantitative here a little bit, as data is playing a key role, and figuring that this is the right set of influencers that I need to reach out to beyond what I already have as part of the project?
Sure. I think I'll step back from a statement that you started, that influencers are here to stay. I think it's not influencers, it's the platforms that are here to stay, okay? If there were no platforms, you wouldn't have influencers in the first place, right? So now coming back to data, having spent like 2 decades in the digital industry, right from seeing the vast days of ringtone and Java games and brew apps to the influencers of today, my personal POV is I don't think we've reached the holy grail of influencer marketing as yet. We've just taken initial baby steps on this piece, right? Today, performance marketing that we do on digital space, it is so cut across, right? You want last touch, you want multi-touch. Can you optimize? What is your input? Are you buying overlapping audiences? How is the message being driven? Can I reach him in the night? Can I reach him in the morning? Can I reach him on his device? Can I reach him on his TV? So it's there, right? But when it comes to influencer marketing, I think we have a very, very long way to go from here. Firstly, even if you ask me, even if, somebody up there asked me like, do you think we need 10 or 8? So I can't answer that because I don't know whether the audience are overlapping, right, geographically. What is the cut on, like if you ask me an influencer has X followers, and if you tell me I want to reach the top tier, can I do it with this influencers or that? I think I don't have the answer, right? What we are just doing is we are doing some sort of social listening, and we are making sure that yes, the message is computed, but can we quantify? No, we can't quantify. I haven't seen anybody quantify or any tool quantify, right? So coming back to my initial statement is there are platforms, right? Now each of these platforms that we work with have been able to quantify and give us a layer of saying this is what you do and this is what you measure. Influencer marketing, I think the platforms itself didn't anticipate the growth as much as they would want to, and I think they also need to figure it around, right? So today, for example, if you want to advertise on Meta, Google, any of the other platforms, you know that you can reach out to the platform, and that's where the data and the layers of data will come in. But influencer marketing, no. There are external ones, but still I think a lot of the platforms have a lot of wall guards for the data to pass through. So I think it needs a larger collaborative effort amongst the industry, platform, buyer and seller to answer the data question. But today it's like, yes, we are spending, we are happy, we can measure social listening. Can we measure attribution? No. Clear attribution, unless there's a coupon code and those are the schematics of a particular campaign. Can we measure ROI or incremental ROI, saying if I do 8, 10, if I don't do, if I do. So no, I think there is a long way to go.
So data is important. The demographic data, or maybe even some of the data that we have on performance, you're saying is not adequate yet. You feel that there is a lot more needed. So data in the future would play a critical role for us to determine how we invest more and have more sort of faith in influencer marketing, is what I'm hearing from you.
There is faith. I don't deny the faith, but can I quantify that faith? Still, I think we are not there.
We're not there yet. And how, Ganpati, how do you look at the same? It's two interesting different perspectives from Anjali and Kinnari there. And yours is, your use case is a lot more exciting, a lot more creative, right? So matching creativity with data, right? Because both have to work for that brand message to go out and give you the bang for the buck. So how do you match that creativity, and how do you use data tech to make the quantitative and the qualitative words meet?
So to be fair, I think very, very well articulated by Anjali and Kinnari on the need for it and the challenges which currently we face. Okay. Can we set data aside? No, we can't set data aside. But today, what is the certainty of what data we have and what do we use it for? You really cannot. When you start looking at a set of influences to work, you certainly look at what is the scale of influence this person can do, what's the reach, what's the numbers. Those numbers are the starting points, certainly. But are they the only truth? I don't think so. That's the case, because there are many a times, especially in a category like mine, where you go beyond it, because there is a certain level of affinity which comes into play, and it's just not numbers. Because you might get numbers, and for brands whose purpose is not just awareness, you would certainly need to invest in what sort of relationship are you building with the consumer through this approach of influencer marketing or through the influencer. That's important, and I don't think so we have data which can help us do that. Do we need it? Yes, we need it. We need to develop that mechanics amongst us. And why would we do? Because today, we've reached a threshold beyond which, and it's already for us, and I'm sure for many organizations, it's still in the process there, where you are starting to make a choice of mediums, and influencer marketing has ceased to be something which is fashionable to invest in. It's not something which you need to tick the box for as part of a campaign. It's something which you're seeking ROI for. And in the absence of data which tells you what's the level of engagement, what's the level of brand building you're able to influence in your consumers, it's going to be difficult for this to scale up. Will it go away? No, I don't think so it will go away. But what it is pushing us, it's in the direction to kind of build those frameworks, build a process where we can actually justify. Because at the end of the day, it's not collaborating with influencers for the sake of influencers. It's about building brands. This is a process of building brands, and the process of building brands is hardwired on returns. That's important. So from that lens, data tells you, fine, pick up these guys, but then don't stop at that. Today we are not in a position where we can put a finger and say this is mathematically going to solve your problem. You will have to put your heart and soul into finding your best suited set to meet your objectives. That's how I would.
I think if I can just add something,
Please.
and I agree with what Kinnari and Ganpati about this. See, there's no standard way in which anybody looks at the data or measures the data. But when you get into something like influencer marketing, you never look at influencer marketing and its attribution in isolation, right? It's always supposed to add that extra level of magic to your marketing campaign. And if you were to look at it from that perspective, if you were to compare yourself when you did not do influencer marketing versus what value it brought to the table, either by way of impact, by way of volume sales that you got, by way of engagement metrics that you got, there is relevance of data and measurement in that space. However, is there a standard metric or is there a standard way in which you start evaluating all of this? I guess not. And there shouldn't be also, because every advertiser will have a different need for which they, collaborate with influencers and influencers bring different things to the table. So you can't really ignore their presence or need in your marketing mix. I think it's just about perspective of how do you start looking at it. You look at influencers to drive the last mile for you. Is it influencer building reputation, brand building, equity, whatever it is that your end goal is. And I think those end goals are measurable over a period of time. And we should look at it more from that perspective than actually narrowing it down to saying, I put influencers and I saw this inflection, suddenly happen. It's a long way off.
And the custom sort of use case for each one is definitely something that we've also seen resonate with our clients. And one of the things, and I think this is a question for you, Anjali, is that as one of the pioneers in sort of leading this over the last few years, while data is restrictive for us, when we look at sort of the public data available around how you measure this, but now we are also seeming to maturing as an ecosystem, right? So having used them for a few years, working with them for the last few years, there is this unique proprietary data that all of us are getting. Having this proprietary data gives you a layer of, okay, what did it do for me versus what can happen with an influencer, which is a very big shift. I think we are going after a decade of influencer marketing. And this sort of the efficiency, the effectiveness, the efficacy that we have seen in our own respective work and campaigns, how has that helped and how is that evolving while we start evaluating our strategies for what's coming, let's say in 2025 for you?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because like I told you, we are new on this journey, right? And we're still evolving. What is the best way to start looking at it? But to put things in perspective, we are as an organization very, very driven by data outcomes, right? And that being the premise on which we work, I don't think we are going to step into influencer marketing and put all our money over there or bet a very large sum of money over there without really knowing what it does for our brands and for our business. So we are definitely going to look at measurability at some point in time. Having worked with this stream of work in influencer marketing, what I can tell you is from the few campaigns that we have run with influencers, we have seen dramatic impact on chatter that happens on social media. We do have social listening tools, like a lot of advertisers do, and we definitely see that when you do have an influencer or you have influencer marketing added to your mix, that you're going to see a lot more engagement, a lot more participation, a lot more communication and conversations around your brand take place.
Very helpful. I think we'll move the conversation from data to tech a little bit. I differentiate the two in the perspective that influencer marketing also happens to be a very operational heavy business. Whatever we are looking at now, and with micro influencers becoming the trend starting in 2024 leading to 2025, it seems to be a big trend across the globe. Now, to work with so many influencers, collaborate with them, giving you sort of the regional reach that you're looking, the dissemination into smaller parts of the country, and moving out of just urban India. How do you see technology play a role in optimizing this? And how is your view of micro influencer marketing, and how do you see it as a trend in 2025? But it's for all of you. Anybody can go first.
Okay, so because it's tech platform, I think I'll attempt this. See, anything that we are doing, because I'm currently answering from the right brain, it's input, process, and output, right? When it comes to input to any campaign or say influencer campaign, what do you want to do? You just want to identify the right influencer, bring some amount of predictability of saying how, where, what, why. Because it's still predictability, I don't have clear mathematics onto you. So if I'm looking at the input part of side, we've actually, gone ahead and seen a lot of AI tools which have kind of crawled and, telling me, okay, this influencer has these many followers. Probably these are originals, these are overlapping a lot, these look fake or bot driven, etc. These are his top comments, his average. So every kind of data, I think of all the tools that I have personally seen, I think there's a new one on the block called Insight IQ, right? It just gives some of the fantastic insights onto picking those influencers to the extent that, okay, what are the top cities that his followers are from? What is the geographic contribution? I think to an extent, there are tools like that which has got us the input right. But can that input answer questions like what is the overlapping between influencer A and B? No. We're a little far off but I'm sure if we've got this far, cracking the overlap is one of the easiest next steps. So the input is sorted, right? Now coming back to the process, right? Can I scale it if I think it's working? No, I cannot scale it, right? So it's like scaling budgets on a performance marketing campaign. No, I can't scale it because there is this whole factor of content creation that comes into play, right? And at the same time, in the process, you are looking at quick data points coming to you saying, etc., is it working, not working? Those data points also don't come in at a real time because, of course, if he or she is putting out a piece of content, that content, because the way algorithms work, will take X amount to reach from 0 to X in one influencer versus another, it will reach 0 to X on a similar, different time frame. So, can I get real time signals? No. Can I scale campaigns if I want? No. I think the process bit is still something to solve. And the output, I think we've spoken enough on data, right? So, the input is getting sorted, but I think the process and the output mechanics on technology are still in early stage building blocks, or maybe it's a surprise like the DeepSeek or Kim suddenly comes out from the market saying, oh wow, we solved it. So I think that's where we are.
Any Ganpati, Anjali, would Ganpati please?
We also need to appreciate that while you've got hardwired things for which you need tech, which tech can solve, it's also a function of creativity. There is content which the influencer is creating in the ecosystem of your brand. Now, I don't know, I haven't come across any tech which is predicting what sort of content can help you get your brand be more mobile with a certain piece of this collaborative ecosystem of content. So you have a brand promise, you have a set of differentiators which you create for your brands, and you have a content which the influencer is bringing to the table. What sort of tech can you put to make this more exciting and define the way? For example, and while this might sound a little bit vague, because earlier, the days of 30-seconders and televisions and everything, you had everything from link to, I don't know, what all mechanisms where you say, look, this is the way my branded memorability works. In the age of influencers, or in the age we foresee forward, this entire brand building exercise is collaborative. Tech, which can not only solve one part of tech, it's going to solve scalability, ROI issues. The other part of tech I would love to see is tech which can help me solve for that. Currently, it's just people.
I think I'll just put out a leaf on the creative aspect because I'm closer to content and tech. Most of us believe that Netflix makes movie based on, some story, etc. But trust me, the amount of data that Netflix looks at and the amount of input on that data that goes to making the next speed of content is so high, including the colors, the genres, the personas, the backgrounds, each and everything. So I think there are people, there are companies, there are pockets of the world that is putting in lots and lots of data as an input to creativity. But yes, creativity is still something that tech might not solve for a time. But yes, your inputs are getting finer and finer, right? So whether you should make this versus that, use this color versus that, can this music resonate more with my DG or that? So that's getting, that's the way I think science went around just making logos, a long time back, to now we've seen companies like Netflix and the likes putting a lot of science to even creating content.
Well, thank you. And, I'd just like to add on the micro marketing and micro influencers, because it's a unique opportunity, I feel. And influencer marketing traditionally, right, has had two key constraints: budgets and time. I mean, a product launch, for example, right? A product launch is happening at a certain date in time. So I have finite budget for it, right? Or I have finite time to activate a certain set of influencers. Now, whether I'm able to do 50, 500 influencers or 5,000 influencers, time plays a critical role in what I can do. And I think technology can come in there and help us solve for the time constraint to a very large extent. So while curation is one aspect where data has helped, I think the time constraint is a very unique problem to solve, which I think tech can help us with. And micro influencers in particular in 2025, I see them playing a very important role, is because the established influencers today, this is their business, right? And as we make this a profession or a business, the entire parameters of influencer marketing is relatability and authenticity, and sort of that, and that authenticity meter starts going down a little bit, right, as you start making a business out of it. But the micro influencers have just started that journey. They are as authentic as it gets. So if you're looking to actually spread that message, or do the creativity with maybe 1,000 homemakers instead of the 4 chefs that are doing it for every pressure cooker brand and also a rice brand, I think it's a very unique opportunity which technology can maybe help us scale influencer marketing with, and still drive home that authentic and relatable content. I just wanted to add my perspective on that one. But as time is up, we will wrap up with any closing remarks that you have. The most exciting thing that you see as far as either AI is concerned, and we park that aside for a second. So maybe the most exciting thing that you see that you would want to use or dream to use while you do influencer marketing as far as tech, AI or data is concerned.
I think there are a couple of things that AI can help you do. One of which is definitely help you with content. The whole space of Gen AI is now working towards what is the right content that needs to go out to consumers. The other is optimization of how you are building your campaigns. So these are the 2 specific areas that I think AI has a very, very significant role to play. We'll start seeing that. The other space I think which might come up is how do you start looking at all the data that you have to be able to do some bit of predictive analysis for you when you're deploying influencer-led marketing campaigns.
Predictive analytics. Kinnari?
I think the closing remark on influencer forum is I'm extremely happy that the whole influencer bit democratized the social platforms, right? Otherwise, we were kind of mercy of those platforms of doing X, Y, Z. Influencer marketing democratized it, but democracy gave birth to another problem, which I think some of us in this room will end up solving, and that's where there'll be some method to madness.
Democratization. It's a big vision. Empathy?
No, I have a smaller vision. I would, while influencer marketing is certainly a community of thought processes, I would love to see greater level of personalization. I come from food, and food is a very personal choice. As many people, as many days. That's largely where it is. So greater level of personalization, greater level of people wanting to explore the unknown, content which pushes boundaries and being unconventional, and all of this at some levels, with what AI can do, makes it more exciting. And hence, I think AI, while we haven't spoken much on that, is maybe a key to kind of exploring these unknowns or stretching ourselves into spaces, which I don't think so come very naturally, or we've been born in an age of constraints where we don't see that this could be a possibility. I think that's what I would see this year, looking at experimenting, getting more avenues to just go about personalizing, reaching out people the way they want, instead of community groups, instead of segmenting them into various buckets and putting them in silos. I think I would love technology to help me do that, and I'm sure AI should put that in place.
Just to summarize today, I think we've heard some amazing perspectives from our panelists, from the fact that we need to democratize the use of influencers, to creativity playing as important, excitement and engagement playing as important a role, as maybe data efficiency and effectiveness is, going to play. Influencer marketing is sort of bringing those two together. There is no necessarily a tangible line there, but a custom, like Anjali mentioned, a custom solution for your own self on your own objectives is what is important to determine. So as you take this path, you're able to figure that out and evolve as part of your own journey. But we all agree that the influencers and the collaborative world of the influencer marketing are here to stay. So thank you so much for your insightful comments, and it was a pleasure to have this conversation with all of you.
Thank you, Atil.